Tenet is the latest film from my personal favourite director, Christopher Nolan, and the first summer blockbuster we've had in the months since the worldwide pandemic started. And I was just so hyped for this film, just beyond belief, because of how much I love Christopher Nolan. And I hope that in that ranking video that I previously did a few months ago, that passion came through, because I have rewatched many of his films since, and my love for him has grown even more deeply, and with that deeper love came an even deeper excitement to see this. And of course, I was seeing a new film in the theatre, so of course I was excited. And due to a lot of my opinions changing on Christopher Nolan films more recently, I am going to re-rank them at the end of this video, including Tenet, so make sure to stick around for that. Tenet, and I'm so happy to say that Tenet is easily up there with Nolan's best films for me. It's a huge scale film epic with enormous themes on its mind, and it is most likely my favourite action thriller ever. I do particularly love film epics as well as action thrillers, and the fact that those two have been combined with a bit of sci-fi and it being made by Christopher Nolan, I couldn't have been happier. I knew this film was peak Nolan for me when I walked out, and I felt that punch that I get with pretty much every one of Nolan's films that I explained in my ranking video. He deals with time very directly here, far more so than he ever has, as usually he'll deal with time in an abstract way, for example Memento and The Prestige, and sometimes he deals with it but it's more in the background, for example with Inception and the layers of the dream taking different amounts of time, as well as the Interstellar and the planet that is 7 years on Earth for 1 year on that planet. Tenet is easily his best rumination on the theme of time so far, and his passion and clear, deep fascination for the subject comes through here, as well as it does in many of his other projects. I can't talk about what the film looks at and deals with so effectively in terms of time, so as not to spoil it, but I can say that Nolan does manipulate the film medium here to get his ideas across, much like he does with The Prestige and with Memento. His direction is key here, and is of course perfect, and the action scenes and set pieces that are consistent throughout the entire film are masterfully choreographed and portrayed. I truly mean it when I say that the set pieces here are Mad Max Fury Road level, one of the best action films of all time. There's some phenomenal hand-to-hand fights in this, and the scale of the climactic action scenes is unmatched, but they are also raw, intimate, story-driven and character-focused, all whilst being unbearably riveting and entertaining. Top-notch, edge-of-your-seat action thriller stuff. And the car chase that we've glimpsed in multiple trailers is a particular highlight here, and it's all backed by best in the industry sound design for every bullet, explosion and punch, having every inch of weight and meaning that it needs and deserves. The whole cast here is just phenomenal. John David Washington, Robert Pattinson and Elizabeth Debicki are the highlights, however. We already know John David Washington is a brilliant actor because of his role in BlacKkKlansman, as well as Robert Pattinson due to his role in The Lighthouse and Elizabeth Debicki for her role in Widows. But they all excel here, despite the huge scale and the non-stop complex plot. John David Washington and Robert Pattinson have phenomenal chemistry and clearly sell themselves as very close friends who mean so much to each other. And Elizabeth Debicki provides soul against a brutal, brilliant Kenneth Branagh as a foaming, rabid demon of a person. However, with the actors' performances, it does veer into a few of the minor issues that I do have with the film, as where the script lacks the time to fully develop the central relationships that make the soul and emotional core of the film, the cast is so good and has so much chemistry and works so well together that they fill in those gaps and make up for an ingenious script's only shortcoming. Hoyte van Hoytema's IMAX cinematography is stunning and more immersive than ever before. It's just as phenomenal as every other film he's done with Nolan. I don't know what to say about the cinematography that I haven't already said to other people. It is just phenomenal, top-notch, best in the business cinematography. However, this time, Hoytema is particularly aided by top-notch editing from Jennifer Lame, who did great work on Marriage Story. She manages to brilliantly capture and position both the huge and the intimate parts of the film side by side with equal amounts of skill. Ludwig Göransson, who's filling in for Hans Zimmer here due to Zimmer's priorities with the Dune soundtrack, creates a very unusual, abstract, but equally as visceral and thrilling a score as Zimmer's, which can proudly sit up there with Zimmer's impeccable work on Inception and Interstellar. A few very minor issues I have though are with the script. Like I said, the relationships that form the film's emotional core needed a little bit more development, and the film could have done with about 10 minutes more to try and solve this issue. However, as I mentioned, the cast does make up for it. Another minor problem that I have with the script is that it does become harder to pick up on some of the finer details within the character's dialogue towards the last act of the film. But not because it's a badly written script, simply because the plot is so immense and you're dealing with such incredibly complex ideas that it is hard to keep track of absolutely every small thing by the end of the film. However, I do want to enforce that the script is still phenomenal and still one of Nolan's best scripts, as it leads you through a very challenging plot without feeling condescending at all. Overall, this is peak Nolan, back at his Inception and Dark Knight levels, after what I felt was his weakest film in Dunkirk. Its ruminations and ideas about time and how we perceive it are just astonishing, absolutely mind-blowing, and, importantly, easily accessible. Most importantly for me though, in the end, I got that feeling that all great Nolan films have for me. So therefore Tenet is easily a 10 out of 10 and one of the best in Nolan's career. I will now quickly go through my re-ranking of all of Nolan's films. I'm not going to do an in-depth review as I have pretty much done that with my other ranking video. I just wanted to go over my changed opinion on a lot of these films. In 9th place, I have Dunkirk with an 8.5 out of 10. Still a phenomenal war film that portrays the terrors of the war. It just doesn't have that power that I mentioned that a lot of Nolan's films have. In number 8, I have The Dark Knight Rises. Still hugely entertaining, just not as good as when I first watched it. In number 7, Batman Begins, 9 out of 10. Still a phenomenal introduction and easily the best superhero origin story I've seen. In number 6, I have Memento, which has gone up from an 8 to a 9.5 out of 10 for me. I rewatched it very recently and I completely understood what made it so brilliant. It is an immense, deeply sad character study of a deeply angry, hollow and empty man. And it is just incredible that this was only Nolan's second film. My top 5 Nolan films are all incredibly close, but it's a ranking, so I do have to order them. Just keep in mind that there is barely much of a difference between these top 5. In number 5, I have The Prestige, an incredible piece of directorial work in which Nolan's clear understanding for the film medium shines through. In number 4, I have Interstellar with a 10 out of 10. Upon rewatching it again, this went up for me because its ruminations on all different parts of science, which I've never even thought to pay attention to before, deeply grabbed me and hugely intrigued me. And I ended up crying twice due to just how phenomenally well done the contrast between the emotional core as well as the huge scale and the huge lengths that the film goes are. In number 3, I had Tenet, of course, with a 10 out of 10. You know, I thought, I loved it, couldn't recommend it enough. And my first and second place have actually changed. So in number 2, I have The Dark Knight with a 10 out of 10. Still an absolutely phenomenal film, but my opinion does change between the top 2 a lot of the time. And as of right now, there's one film I prefer. And following on from that, in number 1, I have Inception with a 10 out of 10. Just Nolan's masterwork. He lives up to it with all his top 5s, but still, it is so difficult for anybody, not just Nolan himself, to even try and top the genius and brilliance of Inception. That was my review of Tenet, guys, as well as my re-ranking of all of Christopher Nolan's films as of August 2020. I hope you enjoyed them both, and goodbye.